Welcome, my friends, tonight to March 1st, 2020, March 2nd, 2021, which is a historic night. I think I just shared that since we birthed Sanctuary Online on May 5th, this is our 43rd evening together. And the last person checking in, we just went over our largest attendance ever at Sanctuary Online. So congratulations for being part of quite a night. Also tonight, as we open March in our 2021 Sanctuary Lenten journey, we're doing so by opening a door that we'll never be able to close as we dip into and we invite you into a taste of self. My name is Jo Bell, and I'm truly honored to be welcoming all of you to Sanctuary Online tonight. Many of you who are regulars, it's great to see your face. It's always great to see your faces. And especially extending a warm welcome to those who are joining us for the first time tonight. Sanctuary Online is an extension of our home and our retreat center that we're building, Sanctuary in the Woods, down just east of Austin, Texas. And as one of our primary reasons for being is to create and nourish community, we encourage each of you tonight to leave your cameras on as much as possible, to be in something called gallery view. And what that is, it just means you can see a whole bunch of faces rather than just one person speaking. If right now all you can see is my big head, then you're not in gallery view, you're in speaker view. And if you pop up the top right hand of your screen, you can probably switch that out and see all the gorgeous faces that I'm looking at right now. We'd love it if most of the time you'd have yourself on mute just to kind of facilitate conversation. And what's neat about being on mute, and a few of you aren't because I can hear some background music. What happens is if you want to speak, then you can just hold your space bar down and you'll unmute for just a while, okay? Also, as Barb has said, we really worked hard tonight for a bunch of reasons to have a registration per se for the very first time. And it's because we're doing a series. Hopefully you're on here tonight, but you hope to be on every Tuesday night in March through this Lenten series. And so we have emails, we have pre-work, we have in-class work, of course, we have homework, and we'd love to be able to send that to you and make this really leverage your enjoyment of this time together. So if you were to pop open your chat box and make sure, again, we have your first name and your last name, a current email, because for some of you, we had an older email address, and your cell phone number, that will allow us to connect with you. And especially if for those of you who popped on tonight and weren't able to register ahead of time and get some of the pre-emails, we'll be able to catch you up nice and wonderful. Let's do that together. How about a big breath in and a big breath out? You don't seem as nervous as I am about tonight. So we know that many of you are familiar with Creating a Life That Matters. It's a transformational spiritual curriculum that we lovingly refer to as CLM, and others of you may not be as familiar. So let me offer just a brief introduction, because it was way back in January, I think, of 2005, where a few of us joined together in a very cold classroom in Toronto, Canada, and we began to write what we now know to be a life-changing conversational journey. And that journey has been walked by thousands of people in multiple countries. And we say that CLM is a 3-course curriculum which explores ways to rediscover relationship with the sacred, with ourselves, and with our passions. And we also say that graduates of the entire course of CLM will be challenged to broaden their understanding of all that is sacred, to integrate self-awarenesses into being authentic, aware leaders who live their passion intentionally in service to themselves, their communities, and their God. And tonight, and actually in March, we're giving you just honestly a tiny taste of that significant curriculum, that significant journey. What we've done is we've taken 4 sessions out of the middle course, and that course is entitled Rediscovering Relationship with Myself. Normally, these sections are very packed into 2 hours. Many of you can give an amen if you've ever facilitated or taken CLM. And so what we've done is while we've cut the whole curriculum from 18 sessions down to just 4, we've also cut down each one of those 4 sessions into a 90-minute online event. So that is our goal, is to take you here for 90 minutes. And we're really also going to be looking for feedback from you. Was that enough time? Was that too much time? Do I always need more time? Which is how we feel about CLM. But anyway, you can see that this is not going to be the entire experience of a 36-hour commitment, but we are really excited to invite each of you to open your hearts to this new experience, kind of dip your toes into the beautiful, crystally shimmering water of self-discovery while in community, while in a Zoom room. So for a lot of us, this is a brand new experience, and that's all of us on this, even the folks who've been planning this for some time. So together, we're going to just see how it goes. Little bit of housekeeping ahead of time, though. I want to introduce you, as I just did. Many of you were chatting with our kind of behind the scenes part of our team. Barb Crabtree is our database diva. Barb, you can give some love there, give a bit of a wave. And if you were registered, if you found your way to our website, if you got a confirmation email, if you got the second email with all the documents for tonight's class, that all came from Barb. So Barb, a little big round of applause. That is amazing for all that great work. And Barb will continue to be in charge of our communication with you, both through email and lovingly, Barb sends out a little tiny text every Tuesday afternoon that reminds you during COVID that it's actually Tuesday and you should show up and to remember to do your pre-work. So if we've got an updated cell phone number, Barb will make sure to reach out and text you or tap you or poke you on Tuesday afternoons. Behind the scenes, my beautiful wife, Cheryl Meyer, has been, and I can see from that face, Cheryl, she's still rigorously placing you into breakout rooms because, as you can imagine, we've never had 58 people to put into breakout rooms. And so we're going to hope that works tonight. And the cool thing, because we're testing putting CLM online, we're also testing many portions and ways of how to do that. So I know some of you have joined up as teams, pods of 4, and you'll be going into the same breakout every night. So you'll actually be going deeper with each other. Others of you are signing in as solo, and you'll meet new people every night. So it's pretty cool. A couple different ways to test how to have that breakout experience. And we'll give you more instruction before we send you in. But I just want to lift up Cheryl again, same thing. Thank you, honey, for doing all the work. We do know and we do understand after many years, CLM is honestly more of a conversation than anything else. And a great deal of the brilliance and the breakthrough and what I remember, what I learned happens in those smaller groups rather than in the larger group. So we're working really hard to see if we can make that happen in a Zoom kind of world. Now, I'm going to introduce our team to you. So I'm going to share my screen real quickly and introduce your facilitation team. Tonight, I am opening up. Actually, I'm double hatting tonight as your host, as well as your facilitator. And so tonight we're going to go into a class called Brilliant, Gorgeous, Fabulous, and talk about our multi-dimensional selves. We're going to talk about our physical selves, our emotional selves, and our energetic selves. And if we get there through all this admin, we're going to chat a little bit about how we use our power. Next week, I'm incredibly excited and honored to introduce Terry Steed Pierce, who will be facilitating a course called Powerful Beyond Measure. And that's going to talk a lot about who am I not? And we're going to take you down a journey with 4 yogas. So that's incredibly exciting next week. Then on the 16th, Lily Brock is going to be teaching a course called Under the Waterline. Man, don't miss this one. Under the Waterline is going to take you on this journey of self-discovery, and it helps us to see how our behaviors, which are above the waterline, things that people see, they're really shaped by our thoughts and feelings, which are shaped by our beliefs and values, which, if we get there, are also truly shaped by our unmet needs. So a really powerful class, and you can see how these are kind of building upon each other. And on the 23rd, Ken Martin is going to bring a course called Keeping Body and soul together. This truly is powerful dialogue, reflection regarding the reintegration of our sexuality and spirituality. And I will tell you honestly, this course, Body and Soul, is almost always the course that when we're all the way done with CLM, people want to go a little deeper. And so we're very excited that these 4 sessions are going to be a part of your journey over the next 4 weeks. An overview of how each evening is going to run, and they're going to run pretty similar, is that we're going to come on, and tonight we're doing lots of admin, thank you, registration, email confirmation, because what we sent you in the second email was a pre-reading from Lynn McTaggart's The Field. And even if you weren't able to get that pre-reading done ahead of time tonight, I still encourage you to do it. Really interesting. Cheryl, God bless her, has reread the entire book, The Field, and it's some really powerful work around how science and spirituality can become connected instead of the disparate disciplines that many people continue to try to pull them apart and keep them safely apart, when power occurs with the integration of science and spirituality. We're going to each night gather and welcome and open CLM with the lighting of a candle. So I encourage you, if you want to get one each night and light it when I light mine, that's perfectly fine. And every session in CLM is kind of structured with a goal and a scripture and a quote. And we'll have folks, I'll just ask some folks to read those tonight, each night for us. Then we'll have a primary teaching piece. Then we'll have, from that primary teaching, which might be conversational, we'll put you into small groups for about 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, I know you're going to chat and introduce yourselves to each other. Hopefully that will be kind of brief. And then we want to make sure that you choose a timekeeper, someone who will lovingly keep you moving and make sure everyone gets a chance to share. We want you to choose a spokesperson. So as you come out of the small group, some of the groups will choose to share some of what they shared in the small group. And we want you to be looking for little broadcast messages. Cheryl's going to send little notes, love notes, that says, 5 minutes have passed, you have 10 minutes left. 10 minutes have passed, you have 5 minutes left. And then you'll be given a 60-second warning, and then we'll whip you back out into the large group, do a debrief, and then hopefully, if there's time, there will be a secondary teaching. And this secondary teaching really would be the part that would be the second half of the CLM class if we had chosen to go for the full 2 hours. Finally, there'll be a homework assignment. And mostly a homework assignment is going to be kind of normally it's a journaling, helping you say, what was that tonight? And maybe think a little more deeply. If you'll notice tonight in the worksheet that we sent you, there are 7 questions. We're only going to deal with 2 or 3 of those questions in the breakout room. And your homework is really just doing the rest of the questions. So it'll be kind of like a post-work journaling. And then the other part of the homework is normally going to be a pre-work, maybe a short reading that gets you ready for next week. Once again, a great reason to have Barb have your cell phone and number so she can text you and remind you to do your pre-work before class tomorrow night. So how we're going to finish each night is there's a song that has become synonymous with rediscovering relationship with yourself. And we're going to play that each night as we give you an in-class activity with your paper body. And this might sound a little hokey at first. Trust us, trust us, trust us. We've done this hundreds, if not thousands of times. And we know that this kind of closing experiential work is really helpful and wonderful. And it's, again, often where breakthroughs or aha moments come for people. And then because back in the day when we used to have classrooms, you might have been one of those people that hung out afterwards and chatted or helped clean up, and you just had a little bit of post, it's like a little bit of a glow. And after class, we are going to close the recording, but the facilitators are willing to stay on for the next half hour, say up until the top of the hour. That way, if folks want to chat If folks want to ask any clarifying questions, it's just going to be very loose. You do not have to stay for that time. Again, we've asked you to stay for 90 minutes. We're going to really try and get the entire class done inside that 90-minute window. We think that's a good Zoom window for the content and to not have Zoom exhaustion. And yet, if you want to stick around, we're going to be here. So that is how things are going to go. I almost hate to ask this, but I'm going to. Are there any questions? I know, before we start. And I really say that because I want to be clear. I want to be welcoming, want to be gracious. But the best way to do that is to go down to the bottom. There's a little reactions guy there, and you can put a little hand up, or you can wear a party hat, or you can do a little heart, anything at all. Any questions? I think I saw, Sandra, is that a question, or you just have a party hat on? And you're muted, hun. So you gotta hold your space bar down, and that will unmute you briefly.
I was just partying, sorry.
Okay. I'm happy to have you, Sandra. And thanks for bringing Canada to the house, right? You, Jane Ann, a couple of you, great. Kristen, did you have a hand up?
No, I just put up a heart because I love you.
Oh.
For the hand.
I'll take all of those, honey. It's been a long, long day. Carlos and Wanda, you guys have a hand up?
Yes.
What's
I have
up?
a question. As an introvert, I didn't see a place on there for a break.
Right.
It's an hour and a half is a long time to do this.
It is, and here's what I'm going to offer you. We actually ran every 2-hour class without a break. So what we did is we warned folks to manage your water intake, and yet we want you to be comfortable. So honestly, a great time if you need a break, need some off-screen time, might be right at the beginning of your breakout room, or even after the breakout room when we go into large group. If you need some off-screen time and just want to listen, that would probably be a perfect time through that as well. So great question. Thank you. Now I'm choking on my water. So again, if you need a biological break, a physiological, we call them a comfort break. Maybe right as you go into breakout room, just tell your colleagues there, I'll be right back, and just take a moment. And or a good time to come off camera is probably going to be right after the breakouts. We'll be kind of doing a large group plenary. Great time, turn your camera off and just listen. Other than that, if you can keep your cameras on, seeing your faces is where a lot of energy is coming from. So thank you with that. Carrie or Kari, you've got a question?
Yes, I was just wondering about the printouts. I didn't pre-register, so I'd like to try to get that.
Sure, they should be. If you open up your breakout or your chat box, Carrie, is it Carrie or Kari?
Yep.
I want to.
Carrie, you're
Carrie?
perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Carrie, break out your chat box, and they should be in there, and you should be able to download them and have them available for tonight. If not,
Thank you.
go to Barb, and Barb, if you throw your email in there, Barb can probably send you the email right now if it doesn't work for you to get them out of the breakout or the chat box. Jim East, question, my friend?
Well, I just wanted to share with you in the group. I have usually used my avatar because I'm using an iPhone and I don't have a way to control the camera. So I don't want to be respectful to the group, but also explain why. So I hope that's acceptable.
Thanks, Jim. No, perfectly fine, and appreciate that explanation. Absolutely.
Sure. Thank you.
Anybody else? There's a lot of little squares on my computer screen, so I'm trying to make sure I've got anybody. Anybody else do one of these for me? If you have any questions, or I'm going to the other screen now. Lisa Talbot, is that a party hat or is that a question? Just a party hat. All right, then I think we're in good shape then, unless somebody calls me out, okay? Then I'm going to take a moment, and although this won't happen every night, I'm feeling a tiny bit compelled to offer a little bit of a prayer as I light my candle tonight, because we indeed are beginning, like I said, to walk through a door that we can never come back from. Once CLM jumps out of the physical buildings that she's been contained within, I'm incredibly, incredibly excited. So if you'd like to light your candle with me tonight. Holy Spirit, you joined us in light and wisdom and adventure so many years ago. We acknowledge you. We thank you for being here and for guiding each person to this moment. Truly, there are no words for the CLM journey you've accompanied thousands of people on over the years, except thank you. And tonight we offer those same words of thanks for the souls you've gathered here together. We ask you to embolden us and to encourage us to open our hearts and share our stories as we collectively step into another new day, an authentic and a gentle yet challenging examination of who we are, who we're called to be, and the integration and wholeness required to fully become that. Tonight we embark upon an opportunity that was seemingly brought about by a global pandemic, and yet we know you've simply been waiting on us to figure it out. So here's to CLM going online, and we thank you for blessing these first steps in this taste of self. Amen. So I'm heading back to some slides, and I'm going to ask for a reader. Kristen, would you be so wonderful as to read? First off, the first one is our session goal.
Sure.
Thank you.
By the end of this session, we will realize that everything begins and ends with personal integrity, the complete and authentic integration of body, soul, and spirit.
Thank you, my friend. And Jordan, I think I saw you out there somewhere earlier, wondering if you'd unmute and read our session scripture.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
I can hear you good, buddy.
Great. Great. So the session scripture is, you're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. Matthew 5:5.
Thank you, my friend. And let's see, Darcel Cole, would you unmute yourself? And our quote is kind of a combination quote, a couple of them. I'm thinking you can handle that, eh?
Sure.
Thank you.
Session quote. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces. From Now I Become Myself, a poem by May Sarton.
Yes.
Now, with God's help, I shall become myself.
Kierkegaard,
Amen.
absolutely. Thank you, Darcel. All right. Well, I'm a little curious, and I just want to do this with a show of hands, just so I know how many folks were able to get and to read it was actually an excerpt from a prologue from a book called The Field. How many folks were actually able to read that? Maybe about a quarter or a third, huh? All right. All right. Well, I do encourage the rest of you to go after that and enjoy that reading. It's a pretty profound look. And what it talks about really is that it talks about the shift in physics, in our understanding of a Newtonian world where everything was discrete, separate, and individual. It was an event unto itself per se. And then how quantum physicists worked within that discipline to look even more deeply in a subatomic way at the particles and at the science. And what they saw was very different than what they expected to see, such that I don't want to kind of ruin the story for you or the reading, but the truth is that they found everything was actually interconnected and only really had beingness because of its relationship one with the other things that it particles and that it was connected to. And at the end of the day, she gathers the data, the science, and reports on it and says that there's basically a field of energy, a great field of energy, and that we are connected to that instead of separate from that. And everything is actually connected to that. And so the central message, that we took from that, from this reading, is how we indeed are connected to each other, to that which we call sacred, to that which we understand and see, and even to that which we don't yet understand. But really how we can kind of co-create our actual existence, how we can create our healing, how we can create and deepen relationship with one another. And so just as each of the sessions inside CLM has a quote, each actual course has a quote. And the one that the central message that really comes out of this course, rediscovering relationship with myself, is one I believe most of you probably will have heard before. It's attributed to a French philosopher and priest, a scientist and theologian, Teilhard de Chardin. And he says that we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings that are happening to have a human experience. And it's with this belief that we begin the journey of rediscovering relationship with ourselves. As we begin to talk about ourselves as multi-dimensional beings, it's interesting to look at this emerging area within quantum physics. And this area, like I said, is focused on life at a subatomic level. And it called into question many of the suppositions that Newton and Einstein kind of laid out early on as truths. So quantum physics is concerned with investigation into the underlying energy source for what becomes physical matter. Now, if any of you have ever watched the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? It's pretty dated, but that was all about quantum physics. And many of you are probably saying, okay, but what does it have to do with us tonight? Fair question. So it's with the investigation into our brains and our bodies is showing that each of us has different dimensions of being that come together to comprise our human existence. In chapter 3 of the book, it's entitled Beings of Light. And McTaggart talks about the energy field that runs through and vibrates at different frequencies, runs through our physical bodies. Now, what we want to do is assume for a moment that McTaggart's research is true, and the dimensions of our physical bodies that we're going to share tonight are these three. We're going to talk about our physical bodies. We're going to talk about the emotional dimensions of our bodies. We call them our emotional bodies. And we're also going to talk about something called an energetic body. And this is an energy that can be actually measured. And what we believe in CLM, we have found this to be true, is that growth, breakthroughs, and progress happen when we are aligned across those physical, emotional, and energetic bodies. We also believe that stress, distress, and disease can occur when those three dimensions are out of alignment. And that's what we're going to spend a good chunk of tonight working with, okay? And I'll stop sharing again to make sure I can see your faces. So another way of saying what McTaggart's research shows right there is that we are multidimensional beings. And I would bet that most of you already know that, right? McTaggart's research is just kind of an indication to us that science is catching up with what we already know, with ancient wisdom. Because if we know that personal growth, significant breakthroughs, progress toward our goals happens most easily and successfully when we're aligned, let's try and delineate this a tiny bit, okay? So physical bodies, pretty easy to discern, right? We can touch them, we can feel them, we can see them. And our emotional bodies are comprised of feeling level responses to our environment. We tap into this body when we connect with ourselves, maybe through meditation, right? When we connect with others through relationship, when we connect with God through prayer. And the heart right brain neural pathway is this central axis for your emotional body. And our energetic bodies are obviously the most difficult for us to discern. But this is where some real profound power and personal self-awareness can occur. When we were first writing CLM, 2004, 2005, this study from McKinsey and Company was just being published. So we couldn't even actually use the exact studies around the measurements. But basically, what they find is that our energetic bodies actually extend through our aura as an energetic field way beyond our physical bodies. Okay. Now, while many of us can sense these expansive energetic fields, we often call them our 30-foot circles because truthfully, that's about what they measure. Now, if you just pause for a moment and think, you're normally probably pretty responsible for the physical body that you can see and feel, right? If I bump into someone physically, I say, excuse me, right? Or if it's Canada, come on, I'm sorry, right? That's it's the national language. I'm sorry. But either way, you notice it, you have responsibility for it. You're aware of it and of other people's physical bodies. What these energetic bodies are showing us is that even when you don't come and physically touch, you are overlapping your energetic selves. And I want you to kind of just hold this because I believe many of you already know this. You just may not have language for it. Okay. And some folks can see these energetic fields. Some folks, most of us actually cannot see them. Now, I'm going to risk dating myself here, and I really totally am dating myself, but I want to give you an example of when our bodies are out of alignment, right? And I believe you've all felt this, okay? So I'm just trying to get you in the state of, man, when have I known this to be true? Any of you out there remember a movie a long time ago called Brokeback Mountain? Okay, now you see, you're dating yourselves too. And you're even raising your hands and dating yourself. I appreciate that. Because it's honestly a really good example. If you remember, and for those of you who somehow missed this movie, there was two young cowboys, Ennis and Jack, and they were spending a season up on a remote mountain range herding sheep, and they fell madly in love, okay? They have a brief but very intense, intimate relationship. And when the summer is over, they drive back down the mountain and they're uncertain if they'll ever see each other again. So Jack drops Ennis off at his farm and he begins to pull away, and the movie camera pans and you can see that Jack is kind of watching Ennis in his rearview mirror. And then you can just feel this tension. Ennis begins to walk away from Jack's truck and he has to step away to the side of a building. And you see him fall to his knees and begin to sob. And then the next thing you see is his body convulsing with waves of nausea, right? He didn't suddenly catch the flu, but his emotional body was absolutely impacting his physical body. Now, here's what I'd like you to do. And I know this will take a little bit of construction. For those of you that were able to get our email and able to print out the in-class worksheet, there's a couple questions on that. And if you don't have it, don't worry, because I'm going to show you a slide and I'm going to read you the questions. So even if you've got a piece of paper and a pencil, that would be great. Because what I want you to do is try to recall a time when your physical self was impacted. Your physical self was impacted, and I want you to ask the question of yourself, what was the impact to my emotional being? I'm going to tie those two together. And I want you to try, the second question is to recall a time when your emotional self was impacted. And try and remember a time when you can remember that there was an actual impact to your physical being. I'm just going to give you a moment. This is a little quiet time. a time when my physical self was impacted, and I noticed, now I can remember or acknowledge an impact to my emotional being. And the second question is similar. A time when your emotional self was impacted, and you can remember now that my physical being was impacted. So I know I'm gonna kind of stop you there and have you listen to me for just a moment again, because we're about to put you into your breakout rooms. On the slide right now, what you can see is really the entirety of the in-class worksheet. So there were 7 total questions, and we're only asking you to pay attention to the first couple right now in your breakout room. Now, if you get done with question 1 and 2, some of you may not come close to getting done, and we're all okay with that. If you get done with 1 and 2, we want you to think about, what do you think is the most powerful and influential dimension of yourself? And I gave you quite a bit to talk about, but you're talking there about your physical body, your physical self, your emotional self, or your energetic self, that self that actually extends as an energy field out from your body. And why do you believe that that self, physical, emotional, energetic, is the most powerful or influential? Okay. So that's your closing question. The rest of the questions we'll use for homework. Do not even worry about those right now. I just want you to focus on these 3. So we also gave you this slide, this next slide that I'm showing right now. We gave you that in the second email. And what it does is this: it says, we're going to put you into breakout groups for about 15 minutes. First off, enjoy your time of small group. Okay. Most of you will be in groups of 4. Maybe a 5 or 2. I think we have one group that signed up as a group of 5. And there might be some 3s, because that's how math works out. Really important, please pick someone who will lovingly manage your time. Okay. And then that way you make sure you cover all the questions, that each person has an opportunity to share, and that you're being good listeners, adult here. Okay. Be wonderful to each other. And then, let me see, Cheryl, I know what we did is, what we tried to do was, for folks who may have been regular attenders of Sanctuary Online, we might have put you into a room with some new folks, just so you can be loving and kind of give them our vibe, right, and welcome them. Some of you, as we said, are already going to be in a group, and so we'll manage that. Cheryl, is there anything else you want me to tell them, except that you're going to give them a little reminder that says, hey, 5 minutes to go, hey, 10 minutes to go, and then 1 minute to go, and they'll come out into the large group?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I think I've got everybody in groups, but if someone is not in a group, and you stay in the main session, just stay here and I'll assign you somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. Relax. She's a professional. Okay. Not really, but she does play one on TV. Okay. And if you know Cheryl, she will take care of you. So like she said, it may take a moment. You're going to be whipped into these rooms. And then please notice, you'll get a little note on the top that says, how many minutes you have left. We may pop in, a facilitator might pop in to say, hi, how you doing? And if you have any issues or challenges, I'm pretty sure there's an emergency help button on there. And if you press that, it will notify us, and one of us will come in and work hard not to rescue you. This is CLM. This is your journey. This is your experience. We are not codependent about your own experience. Okay. All right. So you're going to go in, work with question 1, work with question 2, then into question 3. You'll be back out here at the top of the hour, okay, at 9 o'clock. God bless you. Have fun. Do it, Cheryl.
My whiplash.
Oh, hello.
Well,
You're
welcome,
interrupting our
welcome
share.
back, my friends. Okay, now this is me hollering for you to go back onto mute. Dear God.
I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished.
Gene, that's going to happen every time, my friend. One of the most challenging challenges with facilitating CLM was trying to close people down in their small group conversations, right? Any of the facilitators here, give me an amen, right?
My story was just getting juicy,
Oh, well,
you know, and we had to stop. It was good.
Oh, it is good. It is. It's challenging. I would say Cheryl and I, when we would teach CLM, initially people would be open, and when it was said it was time to come back to the large group, they're like, oh, okay. By the 15th, 16th session, they're like, yeah, talk to the hand. We're talking here. We'll talk to you later. So the one thing that Zoom gives a facilitator is the power to say, y'all come back right now.
If you get a chance, ask Kristen about dancing on the bar.
I'm not going to ask Kristen. Again, as a facilitator, Gene, I've learned when not to ask a secondary level question, right?
Talk to her privately.
Well, okay, so this is where I say, how'd that go? It seems like it went pretty well. I've got a whole bunch of smiling faces and some people that are still continuing their conversations. But I am curious, and maybe there's a group that wants to share. One of the ways we do this without outing each other is if, let's just say, for example, Kristen, since you and you all were having a pretty vibrant conversation, it seems, in your group, is if you wanted to share, one of the ways to not say, oh, Jane Ann said this or Carol said this, is to say, in our group we talked about, and one person shared. Right? And that way you're bringing the nuggets of the small group conversation into the large group, but you're not outing someone for a comment that they might have only wanted to share in the small group. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Pretty kind of nice way to be safe. So on that note, I am curious from the first and second question, and these are kind of just baby steps in, right? Was there anyone that really had kind of an interesting or answer to that concept of when my physical body was impacted and it impacted my emotional body, or my emotional body impacted and that impacting my physical body? Anybody have a great story or a great aha awareness, or maybe even some trouble going, yeah, I'm not sure I buy that. Any and all that's okay. Paul, was that you? Sure, Paul. Yes. Thanks. Jump in.
Yeah. So just from our small group and just from what you just said and what I shared, and I think what the other people shared was I think the physical probably may start it off like it may be something that happened to us. It may be a life change that started the physical off, and then the emotional just heated up to such a degree that then it affected the physical.
Absolutely. Any learnings? What do you think now that you've got language for this, or you've had this moment of, yeah, I've already known this to be true, and I've known this to be true for a long time. Maybe I haven't brought it into my consciousness like I did tonight. Where does this come into effect in our lives, in our relationships?
Toby, I'll speak to that.
Thanks, Cindy.
So they elected me as spokesperson. I can't imagine why they did that, Toby.
Me neither.
So in our group, some of the common theme, I think, is that grief when we have a loss, a deep loss of a partner, a loss of a friend, a loss of a brother or sister, when there's loss from death. That brings on not only emotional, but the physical can make you physically sick,
Sure.
where you're not, but it's, you just can't, it's harder to overcome. Whereas we all spoke about some physical that had happened, we were able to overcome that. Although we had emotional response, we could overcome that easier. So when we talked about our third question, we kind of got into that, the struggle between figuring out if it was emotional or energy, right? If it was those two, we could say it really wasn't physical for any of us.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And it is, and you're making me think right now in this last, honestly, 12 months, I guess, 11 months and 2 weeks now, there has been a great deal of loss. And some of it is loss of life, like you're sharing. Other of it is loss of job, loss of the home I was living in, loss of independence because I either had to move in with someone or someone moved in with me, parents or children, right? Adult children, loss of space. As now we're working at dining room tables and one of our kids is going to school, and, there's a whole bunch of loss. And maybe that's also why that awareness is that impacting our, well, I guess I would ask maybe how do we acknowledge and try and breathe in, either creating more exercise, creating more physical energy, but also just giving ourselves a break for being aware that as we've had these emotional impacts, they are going to take a toll on our physical bodies. And we can have a response to that healthy, or we can have a response to that less healthy. And at least we can know, what's going on there, right? Yeah.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Kathy, go.
That's
Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa.
Go for it.
Yeah, it was interesting because, we talk about loss. I think the piece that came up for me, the word that came up for all of us, I think, was around broken. And then what came up for me was this loss of control, right? We think we have it all, and then something devastating happens that we didn't pick, we didn't ask for, it just happened. And that was a lot of the examples, that were coming up for us. And for me, that was the manifestation of that is loss of control.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What I thought though is everyone in our group who first started sharing, we all came up with something emotional that made us feel physical. And then the last person brought up the physical, which was in contrast to you. Most of what you said about COVID was a lot of emotional stuff, but this was like the physical withdrawal of not being around people, not hugging, not being able to touch another person. Especially I can own, today I said, yeah, because I actually hugged someone today that wasn't my partner for the first time in like 9 months. And it's like, because yay, we're vaccinated and we could do that. And it was like, I almost cried. And that taking that physical missing really has affected a lot of people and made them depressed.
Kathy, thank you so much. As we have been looking at redesigning CLM, we were always thinking of redesigning it for an online experience. And then having a conversation with some good friends in Canada the other night who were actually in the pilot group in 2005, they said, are you going to redesign it? Are you going to make sure you redesign it in a post-COVID world? And what you just said there, that grief, that depression around just lack of touch, and then lack of real touch, and how much more valuable I bet that hug was to you than it might have been the last time you hugged that same person, right?
And normally it's kind of an unconscious, it's so good to see you.
Yeah.
I see you 3 times. Well, I do their taxes, so I see them, 2 or 3 times a year, and that's like it, but we talk on the phone. But this, it was a good, long, lingering, I've really missed people and you hug.
Yeah. Good for you. Well, thank you for lifting that up. And I do hope, we hope that this has given you some food for thought And the question always is, now that I have this information, what do I do with it? And just even that conscious awareness that when I'm feeling feelings, they may have some physical impact. Am I aware of that? Do I prepare for that? When I'm having some physical impacts, am I aware that my emotional state might not be as strong, as able, as resilient as it often is? And maybe I can give myself a little bit of a break, do some self-care, whatever it is that takes you back into that space of resilience and moving forward. So thank you for all those great conversations. I want to move you a little further tonight because we get to do a little tiny bit of a deeper dive. So this second teaching segment is almost like a 201 level. And it is a bit the part that I want you to just go with me a little bit here. And what I want to talk about is the even more challenging dimension of ourselves, which is this energetic dimension. And you can do loads of research here. We can actually possibly send you some more research around this. But what I also believe is that you already know this to be true. Okay, so I'm just going to trust this. I'm going to use an example, not as old as Brokeback Mountain, that might be able to help you find this knowledge that we believe that you already have in your body. So what we say is this energetic, can you remember a time back in pre-COVID where we would have like a classroom or you'd go to maybe a meeting with a whole bunch of people and say that you were headed for that meeting and you were held up, right? You're running late to this after dinner meeting. And maybe you were held up by traffic or work or just something. And you rush in to the meeting, you're a few minutes late, you're breathing heavy, you're carrying a paper bag full of your drive-through dinner, and you find an empty seat. You're like, okay. So even if you sat down at a welcoming table, it's probably clear to you that you've impacted the energy, right, of the people at that table. Now, what we would say with our energetic, our expansive energetic self, and Joan, you had a good question about this, your group did. I don't mean your energy level, sort of, but I mean this energy field that emanates from you. So if we were in a classroom, I would have us all stand up and hold our arms out and do this kind of thing. And we would actually recognize that we'd be hitting each other. A couple of us would be slapping hands. But truthfully, if there's an energetic field that emanates out from your body about 30 feet, even when you're doing this at your table here, you're overlapping your energy with folks on the other side of the room.
Hold on.
Right? So even if you use this example, you walk into this room and you sit down at this table, what we would like you to think about is that your energy is actually overlapping many more folks further away from you than you may have wanted to originally acknowledge. Okay? And here's what I want you to think about. Has there ever been a time when, say, you were in a room, a large room, and again, this is mostly pre-COVID, but without looking at someone, seeing someone, hearing them, smelling them, anything, you knew someone had entered the room?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be proof that your energetic body and their energetic body just overlapped. Okay. So I'm asking you to extend this physical body you understand that you have some responsibility for, to recognize that you have an overlapping field that extends out from your body around 30 feet. They've actually done some really cool studies that people who say are partners or very, very close, that when they're separated, their energetic bodies actually reach toward each other. And if you are as wonderfully geeky as my wife and ever want to read the entire book, The Field, there are some great studies in this book that were emerging when it was written in 2001, but now aren't as emergent. They're more, yeah, we kind of get this and we even accept this science about the power of non-local energetic impact that we have on each other. Some of you can call it prayer. Some of you can call it healing. All those words are interchangeable with science. What science is saying, your energy, your thought, your sending light to, your good feelings when you make food, all of that makes a difference. And before we rewrite this session for CLM, we have to go deeper into the field, because even during a Zoom meeting, does this hold true? Are we overlapping right now? And we don't have the answers to that yet. And Ken, I can see you now thinking we got some research to do, right? We got some work to do. But it's interesting in how we can have an impact on folks that we're interacting with, that we're local to, yes, that we physically are overlapping with our pods safely, and that we're non-co-local with as well. So we want you to think about, and it's 9:16, I'm really going to honor the time, but let me just ask you a question. If you're agreeing with me that you've had this experience, you know that your expansive energetic self has overlapped with other people's energetic self. So you're not touching, but you are overlapping and you're noticing it. What are some possible reactions we might have when our expansive energetic selves overlap with a person who has a powerful physical body? What are some reactions we could have?
Toby, I think it happened the other night on our team call. We all became so emotional. Some of us had to get tissues, and yeah.
Yeah, so we can overlap that, right? And then that energy is almost shared, that emotional energy, Cindy, was shared around a group. What about an impact on you if you came into contact with someone who has a powerful emotional self? When you come into contact with them, what are some reactions that you might have?
Well, it could be a negative reaction. You could
Sure,
withdraw, want to run away.
Yeah, Lorraine. Yeah, this is not all positive. And you know what? Thank you for lifting that up to me, because what the next statement I want to talk about is that power and that responsibility. And what I would say to you, and that's your homework questions. We're moving into homework, but sometimes without knowing it, we have used our power, our energetic power, not for good, right? And then we could intimidate, or let's just say not us, someone else. Someone else could have a strong power, and it could make us afraid, right? We could have resentment, excitement, fear, lust, awe, angry. Linda, is that what you're saying? Linda? Anxiety, absolutely.
I've seen prejudice.
Yvette, hold on. Yvette, did you say something?
Yes, we can be sucked into their energy.
Oh, baby, that is true.
Yes.
Yes. Cindy, you were saying something? Cindy and then Linda?
Yeah, I think sometimes that's where some of our prejudice comes from.
Well, yes, and yep. Linda?
Can I add something?
Anger.
Anger, absolutely.
Button
pushing. Yep. Paul?
If I can add, I think also just from growing up in a household of fear, I don't think my dad necessarily wanted to be that way, but it was basically what he received from his family. So he just replicated it and gave it to us.
Yeah, and Paul, you know what? I'm gonna wrap this up with that comment, because there's so much right there to unpack. And yes, very often all we know is what we've seen or been taught, right? And so we then do the same because it's quote unquote all we know. And tonight, that's what we're trying to break through, to be aware that as a human, as a connected being of light, we have a choice to not, to choose for different, right? Because we've become conscious, or because we've become aware. And the other piece of this is sometimes people do not intend. I don't want to say good intention, but they have ignorance. They don't know the impact they're having. Okay. So for some people, let's just give them that. They don't know that they have caused harm, or they don't know they caused joy. Right. And I'm going to say the same thing about us. I have walked through the world and I have caused harm unknowingly. Doesn't mean I'm not responsible for that, but I didn't intend it. Okay. And then the other piece that I want you to go on in your homework and your journaling tonight is to think of, man, one, do I know people who willingly use their energetic, not their physical body, maybe not even their emotional body, but their energy, not for good? And when we get to Lily's class on session 3, we have some tools for you to say, man, when I'm being impacted by a person, when they're harming me and coming into my space energetically, I've got some tools. Do not miss week 3. We've got some tools to help you with that around the water lines class. But I also want you to also, now that you have, we used to always say this about CLM. Sorry, once you've been here, once you've learned something, once you have an aha, you can't unlearn it. You can't unknow it. You have to acknowledge that you're a human and you have probably taken part in harm, maybe without knowing, maybe with knowing. And that is a journal assignment for you tonight, to just be with it. And don't get all shame-based about it, honor it, apologize for it, maybe even just to yourself or to the universe, and let it go. Because you can choose differently, because you now are aware. And with awareness and integration of these 3 bodies comes power. We have a moral responsibility to ethically understand the importance of coming into alignment physically, emotionally, energetically, and that when we're in that alignment, we really do have power. Are we really being careful of the use of that power, of using it for good, of using it to bless, of using it to lift up? I know if we had time, we could mention some folks, Mother Teresa had this tiny, tiny, tiny physical body, but she had a huge energetic body. Would you say yes? She got things done because she was in alignment with her faith, with her passion, with her calling, and she got things done because of that alignment.
And when people, if I may
Bader
add, Sylvia,
Ginsburg.
when people,
Yeah, hold on, Yvette, and then we'll go to Ken.
yes, when people now talk about Sister Teresa, it's still there. When I visit to the Mediterranean and people were talking about it, it's just like when you're speaking of her and quoting her words, that energy is, and that power is still there. You can really feel it if you're in tune.
Absolutely. Thank you, Yvette. You can tap in because it's never been gone. It's energy. Energy doesn't go away, right? It stays inside this massive field, which is what McTaggart's work talks about, this interconnected, all of us connected, always, all the time, since the beginning of time, energy field. Thanks, Yvette. Ken, you just lifted up a name that we got to put in here. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my voice is very weak tonight, but I just said Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, alignment, right? Absolutely. And I want to honor your time. Pardon? Ken?
Just that she had a tiny, tiny physical body, but her energetic body and her emotional body were gigantic.
Gigantic. And she got work done, right? Because, so this is what I want to lift up to you tonight, is just thinking about this power of alignment and integration. We're going to talk about this next week with Terry. And Stedney, did I see you lifting your hand up somewhere along here? Stedney? Sorry, I'm seeing that in the chat room. Glenda, one more comment, my friend. Yep.
Yeah, I just want to mention Maya Angelou, because
Yes.
one of her favorite well-known is do the best you can, and when you know more, do better.
Yeah.
Something like
You
that.
know better, do better. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Maya
yeah.
Angelou. Again, so,
And it's
so
the
as you journal,
evolution of our growth.
go find folks who are models of this alignment and integration, because you're, as a human, that's your calling. And some of you have just never done the work to figure it out. And we're going to encourage you to do that, because I'm going to show you some homework right before we finish class tonight. And thank you all, so many of you, for sharing. I imagine all your conversations were just wonderful.
Can I add one thing?
Is someone's trying to, I can't see you all, so.
Oh, just one, you can hear me?
Yep, Paul again?
Yeah, when you say power, can I also add the word freedom?
Yeah, yes. Oh, thank you.
This is Jim.
Thank you, Paul. Jim?
It's kind of like the line from Fried Green Tomatoes. If we keep telling people stories, they're still living and alive in their stories.
There you go. Yeah, back to what Cindy was saying about grief, and Lisa, if we have lost people, we keep them alive through telling their stories, right? Over and over and over. Yeah, thank you, Jim. So homework, my friends, is going to be pretty easy. We will get all this figured out. Those of you who don't have the second email, please stick around afterwards and we will get it figured out, sorted out tonight. But questions 3 through 7 really are working with this energetic power, this new awareness. We just want you to journal a bit, because we know that, man, the first time you think, oh my God, I have not been being responsible for my larger energetic self, I want to go back and do some deconstructing of that and some processing. Okay, so there's some questions for you to do. We're also going to send you and we're going to send you an email. So that's why we need to get your emails tonight. We're going to send you a small reading from Thomas More's Care of the Soul, and just ask you to do it. It's only a couple pages. They always will be very small. But where do I come from? Who am I? Who am I not? And then after reading that, what might I do to strengthen the connections among the physical, emotional, and energetic dimensions of myself? Nothing fancy, but a bit of post work and a bit of pre-work. And this is the part that if you didn't get our email, you're gonna have to just go with me a minute. When we teach self, when we're together, we open the class by having folks draw a paper body. And this is not a stick figure. This is your body, so it can look like you. And we use the paper body to close the class every night. So we sent you a paper body, which looks like this. It might not be the one you want, so you're more than welcome to draw a new paper body and draw your own. And just make sure you put it in a file. You'll be using that same body each night with an activity to close. So how I'm going to do that tonight is this. I'm going to play a song. It's called How Could Anyone? And I'd like you, before you draw anything on your body or draw your body, I'd like you to listen to the lyrics quite carefully. And they're very easy. I'm going to put a slide up with them, but you can even listen to them. And I think the lyrics repeat 5 times in this song that goes for about 5 minutes. There's a little instrumental in the middle. Take these words in, just trust us and be with them. And as you're listening to the rest of the song, kind of take a look in your mind and say, man, where might I already feel this alignment between my physical body, my emotional body, my energetic body? And for some of you that might go, oh, that's definitely in my heart. But you know what? Some of us, Cheryl is one of the best listeners I know in the world. And Cheryl, maybe you feel that you already have real good alignment in your ears, right? Or maybe in your heart as you listen and hold people's stories there. Maybe you're an intuitive and that in your gut is where you feel most aligned. Maybe you work with your hands. So don't jump to conclusions. Listen to the song. Maybe even place your hands around the little body. And then what I'd like you to do near the end is to draw a star on your body where you feel the most integrated. When the song is over, it'll be about 5 minutes. You can absolutely click off and move into your week. I hope blessed and generous and thoughtful and safe. And then we'll see you here next Tuesday. We will send you out an email. If you'd like to stick around and just chat or even ask any questions, we're going to turn the recording off, but we're going to keep the actual conversation going if you'd like to till the top of the hour. Is that real clear? Just the instructions. I want to make sure that we're going to do this properly. So you'll probably stay on for about another 5 minutes. If you want to turn your camera off, that's perfectly wonderful. We hope you've been blessed by this first night, but please know there's an arc to the conversation. Tonight, thank you for enduring a lot of admin and kind of craziness and mix up. We will be better by next week, and you're not going to want to miss Terry, one of our master facilitators, and what she has to offer next week. So thank you for coming. I'm going to go ahead and start the music, and I would encourage you mostly to first listen. Let me see, I have to do this, and I have to do this differently so I can share my sound. Apologies for that. And here we go.
How could anyone ever tell you? than whole. How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Hey, Jill.
Let me stop the recording.